I'm going to show you how to carve an Aztec sunstone pattern out of paper. To get started, we're going to use a brown piece of paper, a white piece of paper, and a black piece of paper. I'm going to fold and cut only the brown piece of paper. So to start, I'm going to hold my paper by the corners like a diamond. And then I'm going to put these two corners on top of each other and use my table to help. I'm going to line them up as best I can, and then I'm going to fold. If yours doesn't line up perfectly perfect, it's okay. And once I folded, I'm going to hold it by the corners of the longest side, just like the roof of a house. Then I'm going to fold it in half again. Sometimes paper that's already been folded is kind of difficult to fold. So what I'm going to do is slide my fingers to the middle of the longest side and let my fingers help me bend the paper to fold it in half again. I'm going to line up those corners as best I can, hold it with my fingers, and then fold to make that crease. And again, I'm going to hold it by the corners of the longest side. This is just a smaller triangle. And for the last fold, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide my fingers to the middle of the longest side, bend my paper in half, line up those corners as best I can. Sometimes we'll have to make sure these corners don't slip. I'll hold them down while I line everything up, and then I'll fold it. And now when I hold my paper in front of me by the corners of the longest side, if I let go of one of the corners, I get a W, 3 points sticking up. If I let go of the other corner, I don't. So to get started, we're going to let go and make sure we've got the 3 points sticking up. In the corner that I'm holding right now is the center of my paper, and that's the first place we're going to cut. I'm going to cut this corner off. I could cut a straight line, I could cut a curved line. I'm just going to open my scissors really wide because the scissors are trying to cut through 8 pieces of paper, and the tippy tips won't do. We need to use the scissors back teeth. So now I've cut, I'm going to have a hole in the center of my paper. Now I can also cut off the other corners. Like I said, we could just do straight lines, work perfect. We could do curved lines. We could cut a big chunk of the corner off. That W corner, I'm going to cut a lot of it off. And lastly, we can cut shapes out of the sides. Now think of taking a bite out of a cookie. We want to take a bite out of the side of the paper. But we have to make sure our shapes don't touch each other, because it's these folded sides that hold everything together. If we cut too much, it'll fall apart. So I'm just going to make sure I leave a little bit of a space before I cut a shape out of the sides, before I take a bite out of the sides. I'm just going to cut in from one angle, cut in from that other angle, and it falls out just like a tooth. I'm going to leave a space, cut, cut again, and pull it out just like a tooth. I can cut these bites out of any of the straight sides as long as I leave a little space from whatever else is on that side. So I can cut bigger shapes as long as they don't touch another shape. I could cut a really big shape as long as it doesn't touch any of my other shapes. So just make sure we're using those back teeth of your scissors, because it's kind of tough to cut through all of these papers. Now I'm just going to make a pile of my leftovers and move it off to the side. We'll get a trash can later to pick that up. Okay, I'm finished cutting. Now I'm ready to unfold and see what amazing radial patterns my cuts have created. My carvings. That is cool. I like the bumpy line in the middle. All right, the next step we're going to do is we're just going to glue this paper to the white paper. And it's kind of funny because it's got a bunch of holes in it and it's folded, so just try to do a few lines of glue coming from the middle and maybe a line of glue going around the outside, just doing it super quick so it doesn't dry. Maybe a line of glue going around the inside, and then carefully the glue will dry on the white paper. I'm just going to place it down and try to press maybe in the middle first and then slide my fingers out to help it lay flat. Next, we're going to cut a bubble around the brown paper from the white paper. Now, I don't want to cut right next to the brown paper. I want to leave a little space. That's why we're saying we're cutting a bubble. So I'm just going to cut a bubble all the way around. Leave some space. And I'll put my leftover white paper over here in my trash pile. And the final step is to glue this onto the black paper. And our carving is complete. We're still going to add some more patterns with a black marker and some white crayon. Push, smooth it on so it sticks. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to flip it over and write my name on the back. And that's probably all we'll finish for the first day. All right, to finish our Aztec Sunstone cutout, we just need to add some extra patterns. Now we can start with a black marker, and I can start by using the patterns I already have by outlining. But whatever I do to one shape, I have to repeat it around the shapes going around the center of my circle. That's what makes the radial patterns. So if I draw a line here, I'm going to need to draw a line there and make it repeat the same on all sides. So I'm going to continue adding patterns and outlining shapes. Already I'm loving it. But you can see here where my patterns on the brown paper continued out to the white paper. That's how we're going to continue these patterns on the black paper with a white crayon. So I would take that line and just continue it out onto my black paper to add patterns out here too. And that's how you make an Aztec Sun paper cutout.